It's Sunday, 6 p.m. Welcome to Steve's Place. We're all happy to see you all here again. And hopefully we'll be getting some people in shortly. And we have a guest tonight. His name is Steve Glantz, but more on that later. Before that, I want to remind everyone to come to the conference this year. It's going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico, August 7th to 11th. That's only 15 weeks away. So you need to get your ducks in order here. We still have the 25% discount uh, for the conference for one more week here. So I encourage you to pre. And also, the hotel's taking reservations. Room starts at $80 a night. Normally, these rooms are like $180 a night plus, and our special rates include breakfast, so you can start the day right off, and it's close enough to the speaking area where you could just take your breakfast if you're running late, grab it, and then go and sit in because it's classroom seating, and you can sit there and eat while you listen to your favorite speakers. And so get signed up this week. I appreciate it. And then I just want to remind everyone to join the TeslaTech YouTube channel. We have about 1,500 videos up there and counting, and we're adding more every week. Um, we do the best we can here. We are like shorthanded. And right here is on the yellow box there is what you see on our webpage. And if you click on the TeslaTech channel, it just takes you to the channel directly, and you can subscribe there, and it's free. You can also join. It's $9.99 to join. There's a lot of members-only videos up there. We also, below that, by the computer head, we have the conference directory, and we have all these conferences grouped by, all these videos grouped by conference. So if you click on a conference, it'll bring up all the videos for that conference, okay? And we have quite a few conferences. We have 30 years worth. Then we also have a speaker directory, and that's an ongoing thing. So be sure to at least subscribe to the TeslaTech channel, and be sure you can go in there and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button. It lets us know if you like our material on that, and it helps the search engines. So love that thumbs up thing. And I just want to once more encourage you to become an exclusive membership, $9.99. Let your friends know about it. Don't keep us a secret. Let them join in, and they can check it out. And so that's about it. And and here's Steve Glantz. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Steve.
I'm from California, and I've been interested in what I'm going to be talking about for many years. And I saw the open mic, and I decided, well, this is a good opportunity to kind of launch my ideas out into a more public place. So I'm really glad to have this opportunity, and I need about 3 minutes, if that's possible.
Go ahead, and you got the floor.
Okay, I'm reading from something I wrote, so here it goes. Hi, my name is Steve Glantz, and by incorporating the paranormal into our physics theories, we cannot only develop a viable theory of everything, but one that can also lead to innovative and transformative engineering. To do this, we will need a concerted cross-disciplinary effort that includes the types of things that extraordinary science focuses on, like free energy, propulsion, radionics, psychotronics, and healing. To initiate this, I invented a term called transmaterialization technology, TMT, and have blogged about it on my site, transmaterialization.com, through which you can contact me. My starting point is electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, and instrumental transcommunication, or ITC, which are generally limited by human-machine resonance, but they don't need to be, and whose technologies have yet to be fully realized. More people in the world have access to computers and smartphones than will ever be able to develop their human potential as ascended beings in the short term. We live in an age of technology. Let's expand that magic to its logical conclusion. Let me explain further. So in the world of TMT, we are on the brink of an extraordinary transformation that will revolutionize the human experience. Through TMT, we are delving into the very fabric of existence. Imagine having the ability to visualize thoughts, perceive subtle energy fields, and even access to non physical dimensions of reality, all with the ease and accessibility to all. This groundbreaking technology will not only provide us with the means to expand our understanding of the universe and solve humanitarian challenges, including the eradication of hunger and the materialization and teleportation of resources, but it will potentially bridge the gap between physical and non physical realities. By facilitating movement back and forth through the veil that separates physical and non physical reality, we have not merely a glimpse of the afterlife, but a blending with it. Time travel and communion with interdimensional, extraterrestrial, and parallel world beings is a possibility. Moreover, TMT has the potential to bring about the emergence of a science grounded world religion that respects all species as sentient, accommodating the new reality, and can lead to the fulfillment of humanitarian goals. This frontier technology also holds the promise of accelerating personal development, health, and immortality, as individuals will be able to access their subtle anatomy, past lives, and higher self for rapid evolution and self understanding. It also presents the potential for objective revelation, influencing moral laws and faith practices, along with enabling clear perception of subtle levels for guidance free from psychic bias. I invite you to be part of this pioneering journey where your support can help shape a future where technology and consciousness intersect to transcend the limitations of time and matter and benefit humanity in extraordinary ways. Whether you're an investor, student, curiosity seeker, researcher, inventor, volunteer, or potential collaborator, together we can usher in a new era of understanding and exploration. Feel free to contact me at transmaterialization@fastmail.com or through my blog site in progress, transmaterialization.com. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Steve. That's very good. And if anyone wants to comment on it, you're going to stay around for a few minutes, right?
If you want me to stay, I can stay for a bit.
So
Yes.
just ask if anyone has any questions. In the meantime, let me introduce David. You there, David?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, David. David has been to our conference, spoke at our conference a couple years ago. And so, anyway, what did you want to discuss tonight, David?
Um, well, I was stopping by. Actually, I haven't been to one of these yet, so it was a good opportunity for me to peek in. Right now, I'm starting up a few things with a few people. We are actually taking shipping containers, old units and such, and retrofitting them to have alternative energy. Well, it's generators, but they're running alternative fuels, whether that's biomass or whatever you can get from the environment in the area. Um, and we're using that for a plethora of different services right now because Bitcoin is ever prevalent currently. The one we're building here is actually a mining device, which is solving all of the problems with it, where you have waste heat or you're pulling energy from the grid. Instead, since it's self-sufficient, it can still attach to the grid, and we're actually able to help feed. Like a year ago when Texas had the whole grid go down during the freeze, now we have something that can passively mine Bitcoin or do whatever, factory work, whatever you're needing a megawatt of power for. It can do that on its own, but if you have high grid demand, you can actually switch over and then be feeding power into the grid when it needs it, getting paid that way too. And it's just a combination, actually, of some of the technology I showed back at the TeslaTech conference. We have our vaporizers going to base. It's similar to the process of wood gasification, or what a foundry does at an oil foundry, where we're taking the fumes, we're taking the hydrocarbons off of either organic material or wood waste. Or there's even one we're working on right now that does tire waste, and we're converting it into syngas to burn clean, where the only emission is CO2 and water vapor.
I
And
hope we can make it to this year's conference. I know a lot of people would love to see this technology and that, and
yeah,
you're very well received. It seems like ever since the COVID, it's just really knocked everybody off track here, and things are starting to get back to normal, kind of. You know, although the energy prices being what they are, it makes your stuff even more valuable. You know, my daughter lives down there in the Houston area,
yep,
and so I remember, how she went to that freeze and everything, and every year they have a hurricane down there. It seems to knock everything off. You
yep.
know, so
Yeah, this is the exact use case for this. Right now, you know, Bitcoin is the client that is using it, but really it can be for anything that needs its own self-sufficient energy utilization.
yeah, my partners are working on some of these what do they call that, block whatever,
Blockchain.
yeah, blockchain technology, and they have their own little coin, and hopefully he'll be able to release it pretty soon. It's
Yeah.
gonna be tied uh, to some precious metals and that. We only
Oh,
have like 1 million tons of slag to work with, so we'll see how that works out. And we have a
Steve,
process.
can I ask questions too?
Sure.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how this works. David, is there anybody else doing what you're doing? It sounds very interesting and something you could perhaps show other people how to do as well.
that's the plan. There's a few people doing adjacent work. There's a few companies using like flare gas from oil refineries or even landfills and using that for power generation or Bitcoin mining or any blockchain tech. But I haven't found any company that's using all of the technology together. None of them are cleaning their fuel. If they're using alternative fuels, they're just burning it as it is, like an incinerator. And the emissions are poor on that, and the efficiency is low. So I don't see anyone adding hydrogen. A simple Brown's gas machine is all it takes, and you can start converting it into syngas, and it's a lot cleaner. There's also I feel like it's the natural way for things where different fields of technology and science don't overlap enough because people get too pigeonholed into their specific niche. So it takes a while for the actual commercial end to join all of them. That's our whole thing, synthesizing different technologies. So for the mining rigs, they use outdated fans that are low efficiency. Some people are using water cooling now, and that's great. That's a little less bad for the environment. In all, Bitcoin mining uses less electricity than the normal world banking systems do, so it's kind of a moot point, but it still could be better. And then when we have grid failure and such, there's the majority of power that can be put in is either solar or wind, and if the sun's not out or it's not windy, then that's also a moot point. It doesn't help the grid at all. But last year during the Texas freeze, I believe it was an entire 5% of the Texas grid that was still working was being powered by mining operations that just turned off their mining and instead diverted to the grid. And they made lots of money on that, and they helped tons of people. They made more than they do mining, that's for sure. But
Well,
there's people doing pieces of it, but none of it all together.
one of Texas' biggest problem is they want to be independent, and they don't want to be tied to the national grid, and because they don't like standards. Well, the rest of the world has to live on standards, and I believe in decentralization too, but I also believe, in teamwork, and
Yeah, decentralization works best with teamwork and with some standards.
I'm a NASA kind of guy, I believe in backup and lots of it, a backups to
Yeah.
backup, and if you've been at my conference, I don't get frustrated when we have like people don't show up, because I always have it covered. I have contingency plan after contingency plan,
Yeah.
I've run into some really bizarre situations, because I've been doing concerts for 30 years, and so you get to pretty much expect anything, just expect the worst, and plan for the worst and hope for the best. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And
Well, David, could you show other people how to do this? Do you have a forum where you teach people, or have you written about it, or anything
Yeah,
like that?
we're actually just now. I got my younger brother to move out here and hired him full time to start documenting it. So we're going to be putting it on YouTube and giving like the basic rundown of the principles, but then we'll be teaching people one-on-one as like part of the business. We already do a lot of consulting and advisory role with my company is Synthesis LLC. So we already do smaller advisory and consulting work. So this would kind of be another piece of it because on our own, we're already getting established doing this. We can make our piece, but it's a very large market. It's not like we're going to corner it on our own and we'd be able to make more by giving the information to other people and letting it proliferate.
Right. Oh, best luck with that.
It's going to be tricky, but that's what we do. I
it
feel like
seems like YouTube's the way to go these days.
yeah, I feel like it is. I mean, I'm young, but it's even still a little strange to me. I'm still, I don't know, old soul or whatever. I prefer driving across country to someone's house and hanging out for a month and building something, but we'll do it on some screens over the internet.
I believe in both. That's a come. I'm doing the conferences live because I think you need to meet people. It's hard to describe something over a screen.
There's
Whereas
also the physiology of being somewhere and interacting with real people in real life.
there's that, and also you can tell if they're lying or not. At least I
Yeah.
can. It's easier to do that when you're in person. Because everybody has a tell. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And so to me, the in-person events are extremely important. But then it's good to have YouTube for memory.
Yeah.
It helps to remember what was actually said in that. And if you absolutely couldn't make it, it's a poor second choice, but it's there.
David, I like what you're doing with this idea of synthesis, because that's kind of how I think too. That everybody's in their little, echo chamber or their little particular technology, and I don't know if you were here for my little presentation, but it's all about cross-disciplining, with all these different types of technologies. The physicists, the engineers. All the extraordinary technology that's out there, and I think together we can accomplish things.
Yeah, I mean, in nature, that's the whole thing ways work anyways. So that's been my whole goal for a while. I actually got the name synthesist from one of Steve's conferences, one of the first ones I went to. I think I brought a motorcycle that I converted to run on anything. It was like, I think for the demonstration, we poured tequila and Monster energy drink in it and got it running on that. But someone took a video at the conference, put it on YouTube, and it was just an offhand, like, it was not a company name idea. It wasn't anything I actually went by. Someone's just like, you just take a bunch of different stuff and like, what's the word? What's the word? And I'm like, oh, I'm a synthesist. I'm just mixing it together. And that somehow is a clip on YouTube. And then 2 years later, someone pulled up at a stoplight and like, you're the synthesist. And I'm like, uh-oh, what did I do? What do you mean? And then he sent me the video, and I had no clue that it was on the internet, that this was a name that had been assigned to me, and I just ran with it. And now it's been 6 years or something, 8 years with this company name. And it's good. It fit. It's just cross-pollinating, cross-referencing, getting people out of their echo chambers. It's important.
Yeah. Steve, in your line of work where you've done these conferences for so many years, have you seen people collaborating and creating, companies or, real progress to the extent that it really needs to be funded, or have you seen it sort of struggling in a way?
I've seen it all. Some people, are able to pull together a company and that and get it to work and that and actually get get a product out the door. But there's other people who have a difficulty in putting the presentation in that, and they don't attract the funding that they probably need to get. But I think my conference is probably one of the a critical one if you want to start getting out there, because in the mainstream science they have the IEEE and they have all their transactions and all these other places to get their word out, but there's nowhere for the independent researcher working out of their garage or backyard or whatever that can get out there and put it on a credible platform, except for my conference at this point. And Aaron used to have a good one, but I don't know if he's going to do it again. Last year, he seemed like that was going to be the last one.
Yeah,
so,
Aaron's kind of moved on out of that. He's more interested in just buying and selling patents and holding them. You're the last one sticking out, actually providing the platform that people need.
And he thinks that he got as much of the message as needs to be out there, so. And I don't think that we know it all yet, so there's I don't think we'll ever know it all yet, and anyone who believes that is delusional, when it comes to what we really know. And it's just, you're never going to know what you know until you don't find out you don't know it,
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I've been doing all my life, is helping the search, the everlasting quest. So
to elaborate on your question, I think I've personally seen, I think his name was Andrew Batty. He got together with Bob Boyce and a few other people. They have a lot of stuff that went to market. Smaller company, but successful, and they've impacted a lot. Russell Anderson, I think both of them are in the hydrogen area. Both of them got together with other people that they met from these conferences, and it at least expanded. But it's still the same problem where a lot of the backyard tinkerers or innovators, or even college level innovators, their field, their niche is what they're working on. It's not business, it's not media, it's not marketing. So then it falls flat without the right resources of people, and you need that kind of support group. You can have the best idea in the world and it'll still fall flat to someone on TikTok with a cool piece of plastic who knows how to talk real good.
Well, Andrew has the hydrogen garage.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And he's very successful at that, he stays busy and he does the Bob Boyce stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Russell Anderson. He works with the Searle stuff, the electromagnetic levitation type of stuff, with Dr. Searle and that. And unfortunately, Dr. Searle's passed away. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of the people who start off with me are right now. And I'm going to be there pretty soon too, within the next 20 years, guarantee it. But anyway, so yeah. And Russell is going to be there this year. Andrew, I don't know, but he made this T-shirt I got. Does all our designs and everything too. On the side.
Yeah. Oh, he still runs his screen printing stuff.
He doesn't do screen print now. They have there's a new printing technology out there they use. I don't think anyone does screen print anymore. Unless
it's artisan on purpose, you're paying for it.
You're going to pay the nose for it, and it's not like high volume. But he's turning that business over to his daughter. So
that's good.
So yeah, so that'll be around. And there was a Mr. Sri Gupta who's trying to get on here, but somehow you need to connect your devices, Sri. Until you do that, I can't bring. Oh, there you go.
Unmute myself.
Are you there? There he is.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, and this is Sri Gupta.
Yeah, I'm in Florida.
And
I'm new in this business. I'll be coming to the August conference first time.
Okay.
I have a different kind of question. I've recently heard a few YouTube videos on the Philadelphia experiment. So I'm not sure whether you're familiar with it.
Well, yeah,
And
we have a lot of videos on from Al Buelich.
yes, yeah, in TeslaTech, right? So, and the question, how much do you believe in this, right? Like the time travel, especially? That is so intriguing.
Well, one time I was at a bar. We were having a conference, and the night before the conference, which got snowed out, I'm at a bar with one of the physicists from Goddard Space Center, And I asked him, he asked me if I thought space travel was possible. And I go, "But gee, John, you're the physicist, you tell me." And he goes on to tell me that there was a group at Goddard, okay, that had gotten together. And what they're trying to do is go through all Al Bielich's story. And for those of you who don't know, it's about the Philadelphia experiment where the Navy was doing this invisibility experiment and the ship jumped through time and space. And two of the crew members got separated. One stayed in like 1986 or whatever, and the other one got propelled backwards all the way back to where they started from, which was like 1945, I believe,
43.
or 44, 43.
No, 43.
Yeah. So given that kind of history there, I was trying to question now, about like, is he really a time traveler? Because he keeps, gives up these stories and everything. But from what I hear, is Montauk, which is where it jumped to. Okay, the Eldridge, the destroyer, has a place called Montauk, and it's like a big radar station. And it's been destroyed pretty much.
Excuse me, Steve. I'm hearing David's noise.
Oh, sorry. I thought I muted that. Thank you.
And so what happens is this radar station was destroyed. It was supposed to be like a teleportation unit there at one point, which brought in this alien in, and it destroyed the place. But anyway, their focus, okay, for the group in Goddard was to backtrack Al Bielich's, and every time they get to the Montauk, New York site, things get really weird. Like it's supposed to be state property. Yet if you get a traffic ticket or something, you end up in a federal courthouse. And the judge finally said, "Look, I'm not going to hear any more of these stories until you mark it as federal." And so it's stuff like that. And Montauk, is supposed to be the point of it. Now, whether we could travel in time or not, I don't know. I believe some forms of time travel is possible, and they seem to be coming up with particles they can go back in time in that. And the math seems to indicate you can, but math is theoretical. So I don't know.
Yeah, I want to say a few things about that too. Back in the day, I talked to Al Bielek and Duncan Cameron, who was one of his partners in that event, the Philadelphia experiment, and I found them to be pretty credible. But I didn't really get deeply into the science with them. But one of the things that I'm exploring on my site and in my project is this whole idea of having a physics theory or a theory of everything that includes the paranormal. And once we can do that, I think we'll be able to develop those technologies. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm going into the academic papers, and there's a lot of people writing about, consciousness physics and things like that, and sort of analyzing them and running them through AI and trying to come up with some new ideas for technological development. And I'm definitely interested, and I think it's possible to do time travel and teleportation and things like that. But I think we need an effort to do that, whether it be through cooperation amongst collaborators or a more formal structure. I think it's really, really possible.
I will say, and I'm not associated with the conference, I've spoken at it, but every time I've been there, being in person, it's a lot easier to get a feel for.
Your sound dropped off, David.
Yeah, you're muted. No, cannot hear you.
Yeah, David, you lost your sound.
Must be the headphone, the speaker phone. Maybe we cannot hear you.
Yeah, he dropped out. Maybe his wireless
Maybe
thing.
the battery went dead. I think it's the headphone.
You can't hear you.
Yeah, no, we cannot hear you.
Not yet.
Oh, no, still.
He dropped out. He must going to be reloading.
Yeah, quite likely it's the battery in the headphone. Needs to charge it or something.
Yeah,
But these things are so interesting.
Anderson. He actually met Billy also and Cameron. 32 years in Philadelphia and Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay.
And let me back him.
Oh, so the Russell Anderson is here?
Looks like he was on YouTube, right?
Russell's in the audience. So, David, we still can't hear you. I'm go check out his audio settings, I guess.
Yeah.
You there?
Yeah. I mean, he's speaking. We cannot hear him.
Yeah. You never can tell what goes on a live show. That's the thing, That's what I like about our conference, because everything's live, and our videos that we have are uncut, We don't go through and we don't edit them and fix them up or anything. Basically, what you see is what you get.
So coming back to the topic, it is so interesting. I mean, the Einstein's theory says you can go forward in time. So if you can travel near the speed of light, then if you are in the vehicle, which is traveling at that high speed, you could be, the vehicle could be going for 100 years, but when you come back to the Earth, maybe 1 or 2 years, other way around. The Earth could have gone through 100 years, but you would have gone through maybe a year or two.
Oh, that part I don't have a problem with. The problem is where you can actually go back in time, and the question is, if you go back in time, can you change things?
Right.
Because then that means you can never have a stable future. Although biblically, the way they discuss it is it's like a parade, okay? And if you stand at a point in the parade, you see the whole parade go by. But yet God is supposed to be able to see everything. So he's like in a blimp above the stage and he can see everything. So he knows what's going to happen. So that starts getting into is everything fixed, or how people can see the future, and if you go back and change it, you won't be able to see the future, and if you can see the future, does that mean you could change the future?
Right, because you already know the future, right? You came from the future, right? So you already know what.
And if you already know what's going to happen, is do you really have free will? That's a whole new ball game. Yeah.
There's a couple of ideas when it comes to time travel. One is that, the people there already is people traveling forward and backward in time, but somehow the timeline gets integrated with what they're doing. So they're really not affecting the past when they go into the past. They're integrating with history. So that's one idea. Another idea is that we live in parallel universes and that everything that could possibly happen is happening. And so we're constantly branching off into multiple realities. And so when you go on a timeline, it might be your timeline, but maybe there's another timeline that's branched off from it. So, you think you might be traveling to the future, but you're traveling to another timeline in the future that's maybe very, very close to the one you're on. And you think you're in that timeline, but you're not. So those are a couple of ideas I've seen.
And that is called the Mandela effect, I've heard, right?
I think it's related, yes. Do you want to tell us what the Mandela effect is as you understand it?
Well, so So several people, when Mandela was released from the jail, became the president. So many people thought that they had heard that Mandela had already died. So how come he became the president? And then they came up with this theory that in one reality he had died, another one he became the president. So these are the parallel universes, right? Just keep going on in parallel. So somebody coined it as a Mandela effect because it happens many times. You say, "Oh, I thought this was
Well,
something's
personally,
happening," and they say, "Oh, I thought this could never happen. It's not possible."
I would hope that kind of time travel would not be possible. We can go in and change things, because I like to have stability, you know, and things be final, Uh, without that, you can't really have real progress. If everything's changing all the time, it's like being flippant in that. So,
There's also
Well,
the concept that as we raise in vibrations or we ascend into higher levels of evolution, which some people think that's our destiny, that time and space takes on a different meaning. And even conventional physicists talk about time in that way, so that maybe we're in the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, and time doesn't even really exist there. So now you have a very philosophical question about time travel.
and
well,
what is time? What is time, right?
Exactly.
How do you define time?
Yeah.
and then there's a new theory out there that we're all in just one big video game out here, and we don't really exist. It's just like a video game, basically. And I suppose that could be possible. Uh, but
Yeah, that's called simulation theory. And we're all in a
simulation,
simulation. Yeah.
we all live in the matrix, and
Apart from time travel in the same Philadelphia experiment, there are a couple of other things. One is the invisibility. See, the whole ship Eldridge becomes
right.
invisible. The second thing, it gets transported. And some people saw it in the naval base in Virginia, Norfolk, right? So is that possible? And then they claim later on that they have a higher technology now, and they do it routinely. They do it all the time.
Now,
Using
who's claiming that?
Yeah, this is the other talks from. Is it same? I think Al Bewley gave another talk. He's given several talks.
Well, I believe,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, if you go to my website, and look up Bob Bielik, Al has done a lot of videos over the years. And I brought him in like with Preston Nichols and a bunch of other people to our conferences. Uh, we kind of viewed that part more as a entertainment part because our group was pretty much of a hard science type of group, and we prefer the hard science, and we are getting more and more quantum stuff in here, but still we go back to our roots, with the hard science stuff that you can actually build and prove. Uh, and that's a come I like Russell Anderson. He's there with his models and everything, and he actually builds those and can demonstrate stuff, you know. Um, and that's a come I also have a thing called we're for hardware, not hot air, because we have so many people everybody has a good story, but not too many people have actually done the hardware to actually prove it one way or the other, you know, um, or have any kind of evidence or witnesses in that. So it's all important, So
But you still need the theorists, the physicists, the mathematicians, the scientists that come up with a theoretical framework. And once you do that, I think it makes the engineers' work a little bit easier because they can have a framework upon which they can do their inventions.
and I
We
don't.
always need dream. We always need dreamers who can dream big dreams, and somebody else can make them come true.
We need the dreamers, and you never hear me say a bad, really anything bad about science, and maybe the theory don't work, but I don't value them less per se. But there's so many people that will have stories compared to people who actually do hardware, and so we kind of like to do the hardware. But more and more of the software sciences are figuring out ways to actually validate their work. Okay, which is important. Validation of work is important, and otherwise, if you don't have that validation, it's a belief. And that's just like the Bible, for the most part, the Bible is a belief, and you have to go by faith, and that's the difference between faith and reality. Now, having worked on like a free energy device myself that actually worked, okay, but only worked for 3 weeks, um, I look at the free energy stuff from the Thomas perspective, where you had to stick the hand in the wound of Jesus to believe it, Uh, so I come from that angle as opposed to total faith. Okay, a lot of people do this on total faith. And there's a difference, you know.
Right.
It's
Well,
important.
so this concept of ether,
Yeah.
the reading one article, it talks about ether being something in the space, and that is what gives you free energy. So, what is this concept of ether? I thought it was synonymous with space, I used to think.
Well, Einstein doesn't believe in the ether, and he bases his stuff on that Michael Morley experiment as his proof, but that turns out to be pretty flawed. But the ether theory is that there's a space-time fabric, actual physical uh, particles there, basically that permeate the whole universe. And with that, um, if they're close enough, you should be able to have like what they call action at a distance reactions, which should be instantaneous as opposed to those that take time. And for an example of this is, okay, we have a wall, and you're on one side of the room, and you roll a pool ball across a room, and it takes an amount of time for that ball to hit that wall and bounce back, right? Whereas if you take and you have a tube and you have all this stuff full of balls, you take and hit the ball on one end, instantaneously you're going to feel the result on the wall. You see what I'm saying? It's going to hit that wall immediately. So that's the difference between action at a distance and something like our typical electromagnetics that take time to travel. Yeah. And so so that's the difference between ether and no ether too. I believe in ether because I can't see there's a way of traveling with energy without having a method of transporting it. And I think Tesla was an ether kind of guy because, like, even when he did his experiments with the Earth and everything, um, he believed in everything had to be grounded to get the strongest wave, electromagnetic wave out of it. Okay, and he believed in the longitudinal wave, which we know exists. You can see it in a current, in electric current. And so when you go to things like radio waves, they try to they use the same equations, only they take the longitudinal component to zero. They claim it's zero because there's not enough particles to sustain, it doesn't make it have an effect on it, so they just consider zero. So when they do that, they have an inaccurate view of what they're looking at. And that's kind of like when they were designing these rail guns, and the rail guns would break. But that's because they were using the Lorentz equations, which don't consider the longitudinal force, but it does exist. Okay, and so when they're using these immense amounts of current to push through that rail to thrust an object along it, well, at those current levels, all of a sudden that longitudinal component becomes more important than the transverse component. Okay, so probably didn't explain that very well. But anyway, that's why I believe in the ether, and I believe that when they try to take the ether out, they're wrong, you know. And even Marconi, he didn't have much success until Tesla told him to ground his equipment. And once he grounded his equipment, then he started getting successful with his radio, you know.
So grounded equipment means the wave travels through the ground, through Earth. Is that so? So the longitudinal wave will travel.
The longitudinal wave will travel through a wire, okay? But when you're trying to do like a radio wave, okay, and you tie your antenna to the ground, the strongest wave is going to go through the earth because there's more particles there to carry the current, okay?
Right. But we ground everything anyway, right? Don't we? I mean, all the houses are grounded, the electrical circuit. So what's the difference?
Well, the reason we ground all the houses is for safety reasons, okay? If you were to let your electrical circuit in your house, for instance, float, okay, you could step out of your house and get electrocuted, if it wasn't grounded, okay? So they ground everything, and for safety reasons.
Oh, so it doesn't necessarily, it's not the return path for the current, right? The current comes from the generator.
The current goes through it, but that's not the primary reason for it. The primary reason is so that you're 120 volts in your house, 120 volts. It's not 12,000 volts, okay, compared to the ground outside, okay? So you always, they tie everything to a ground. Okay, it's a safety reason. The insurance companies figured there's less liability to a house burning down, like when something shorts out to ground, it can start a fire. There's less liability there than it was from people getting electrocuted.
Oh yes, if they don't ground it, the line voltage can just start floating up, right?
Well, if things are grounded, your voltages can float all over the place,
Yeah.
And you can have amazing results. Like I worked for AMI, and what we did was we tested seats, the aircraft shuttle seats, what we built, and they gave me this $18,000 piece of equipment, to measure. We were experimenting. We had a new type of energy absorber. What it does is you have a tube, and you take and you put like let's see here. Yeah, you take the ball and you pull it like this, the spindle with a ball on it through the tube, and as the energy expands the tube, it absorbs that energy. And what they was going to do is mount these on the back of helicopter seats, because when a helicopter crashes, you can't have more than 20 G's, otherwise the guy's going to die. Okay, you can absorb a body can absorb 20 G's. It's instantaneous. But so we had this wired this thing out, to measure this, and we're measuring microamps, right, and microvolts, okay, and we had it plugged in, and the first time we turned the thing on, the thing blew up on us, 6 circuits, boom, just like that, because they didn't have the circuit grounded. And so the voltage is floating was up it was like a 1,000-volt difference between what we were measuring and the device, because it floated, the way it floated. So that's why you tie everything to ground, so you don't get an extremely high voltage on something where you're not expecting it,
Right. Yeah.
And because voltages are always relative to things. I mean, you just rub your hands like that. You don't realize that's like 12,000 volts at least. Just rubbing your hands together, And we have equipment can take a point and you can measure it, the static electricity there. But now if you take that voltage and you turn it into like a rotor house current or something, 12,000 volts. That blow you away. You know, that's how you're starting to work your way up to transmission wire levels.
Yeah.
You know, but grounding is
Well,
an important thing.
I was just going to say on your question of etheric energy, I mean, it's an interesting word, and people have different definitions for it. But starting with what you were talking about is the Michelson-Morley experiment. There's new debate about that now, that maybe the measurements were incorrect, or there's some other theory that could revive the etheric theory of transmission or of physics. So that's one thing. Ether is also used to describe anything that's non-physical, right? So you have your physical body, and then you have your etheric body, and that etheric body, who knows? It could be electromagnetic, but I think there's probably more to it than that. There might be other types of energy we haven't measured yet that may not even be in the known electromagnetic spectrum. There might be components of consciousness. There's a lot of theories now that are including consciousness itself in their theories of physics, and I think there's a lot of room for exploration in that realm. So I think it was a good question. I think the answer can be, kind of involved.
Well, ether, what he's talking about is spelled AETHER, and
Right.
it's directly related to the electromagnetic and the physics of space and time. And your etheric would be a different ETHER, would be a different type of thing. But we have a comment here. Does anyone know about the MH370 videos? I know. I don't.
I believe I was reading in the news recently that there's been some new discoveries. Maybe they've actually found the wreckage of the MH370 aircraft.
Okay.
Perhaps Bob, who has made this comment, can tell us more about what he knows.
Can you bring him on the stage? Can Bob come?
Unless he comes on there, he has to click on that link we sent out with the email. But the
I think he can also
MH370.
comment too. He can also comment through the chat, through YouTube, or wherever he is.
Okay. And he's saying it's regarding possible technology and release videos of it. I don't know. I'm trying to think, is that the one that went over the Indian Ocean that they're looking for, been looking for forever, and they're starting to find bits and pieces in like Madagascar and places like that.
Sounds like the inference here is that there's maybe some unexplained technology that prevented it from being seen, and that maybe brought it down. I'm just curious about what he's referring to.
I don't know. It makes me. Well, I never did like flying anyway. I prefer like trains and automobiles there, not too much on planes. Especially now, Boeing is just, it's like they forgot how to make airplanes. Every time I turn around, there's an issue with that. So,
yeah, and there's also the question is, could there have been some ET involvement or some UFO activity related to the MH370? I'd be curious about that too.
What is MH370? I'm not familiar with it.
It's a plane that took off in Southeast Asia, and then it disappeared off the radar. And the last they think was headed was towards the Indian Ocean, and they had for months they searched for this thing. They had.
Now I remember that. That's a Malaysian Airlines plane, right?
And then there's theories out there that maybe it had became radar invisible and went and landed in Russia and everything. There's all kinds of theories on that.
Oh, okay.
And
I thought they found the wreckage. Finally, they found this wreckage, no?
they found little bits and pieces of it, not much, not a whole thing yet. Okay, here's Russell saying, read Ether Technology, the famous little yellow paperback, which is out of print, by Operation Paperclip scientist Rosher Franke. Okay, from Huntsville Redstone. That's where I first got into electrogravitics. It was through that book. And Ralph passed away a long time ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, back in the 90s. And his wife wrote me and thanked me for carrying his book because we used to sell that book. So, and Ralph Franke, for those who don't know, is the youngest member of von Braun's rocket team. And when the Allies took over Peenemünde, which is where the V rockets were being sent from, they got that rocket team and brought them here in the United States. And they had to turn around and bring them through Mexico to Roswell area. If you ever go to Roswell, you'll notice that in the old part, there's like a European flavor to it. You know, it feels like you're in Europe and that. And that's because those paperclip scientists, they brought their wives with them. The wives became school teachers, you know, and they settled down there. So kind of the architecture reflects it. And also, the kids speak Spanish with a German accent because their wives are the school teachers, and that's how come that all happens, you know. And if you ever go to Roswell, okay, they have the Goddard Space Museum there, and Goddard is the father of American rocketry, and he is launching rockets down in outside of Albuquerque during parts of World War II and during the early part of it before he passed away. And at the Goddard Space Museum, they have his actual workshop in there. And there's a little like river, they call it a river, I call it a creek, you know. And at the bend there, they have like an MIA part. And that creek is lined with rocks put there by the African Corps, you know, because when they captured them in Africa, they brought them to the Southwest to work as labor down there. So yeah, it's a rich history. Yeah, that's how German history and American history is intertwined at times. You know, so. But anyway, it's getting to be on the hour mark. So, is there any other questions that we have or comments someone wants to make?
No, that was good discussion, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, Ralph's going to be at the conference. That is a good question. I don't know if Ralph's going to be back this year. I know he was trying to get some product out the door there, and he was focused on that. So I don't know. He hasn't contacted me to say that he was. So who knows? He may be bringing some stuff as a vendor. Okay. And so that's about it. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night, gentlemen. Okay. Unless you have something else to say.
No, that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve.
Steve, it's really been a pleasure be on your show and to give me an opportunity to speak to what I'm interested in.
And people can get hold of you through going to transmaterialization.com.
Yeah, or transmaterialization@fastmail.com.
Okay.
Either way. Yeah.
Okay, and then Sri, you have we'll just see you at the conference, Sri, okay?
Right, I'll be there.
And Steve, I hope you decide to come to the conference. I think
well, you got me interested now.
So, and for all the people out there, I want to remind you to come to the conference August 7th to 11th. Get signed up this week, you know. I know if you come, you will have a great time. You know, I guarantee if you don't have a great time, at least one day's worth of good time, come and see me. You know. Anyway, get signed up, 25% off this week. And we'll see y'all next week. I'll probably open mic again because it's Mother's Day, and I don't want to disrupt anyone's Mother's Day unnecessarily. It's a very important day. Anyway, I'll talk to you all next week. Thank you for coming. And